Hey everyone, I'll bet you weren't expecting to see me, huh? But I'm not here to announce or do a studio chat. Rather, I'm here to salvage what I can from this trip, which did not go as expected. To be clear, there is no Death Valley in this video. If that's what you're looking for, please check out one of my actual Death Valley videos. You can find video series from at least 4 trips there. During my last trip to Death Valley, New Year's weekend to welcome the new year 2022, Matt and I crossed Mengel Pass. In doing so, we visited Geologist's cabin and both agreed that someday we should camp there. So when Matt asked me what I was doing on Easter weekend a few months later, I agreed to meet up with him and 2 other friends to explore more of Death Valley, and that would include a night camp at Geologist's cabin. I had not seen either of the other 2 friends in a while. Shane, the professional landscape photographer who ran El Camino del Diablo with Matt and me in 2020, and Adam, the nurse who correctly diagnosed my hernia during our 2017 Maze District expedition. It would be great to overland again with them, and to sit around a few campfires and discuss how each of our lives were going. And I would be taking my Wrangler, which was newly modified with upgraded axles from Dynatrac, a ProRock 44 up front and a ProRock 62 in the rear. But, alas, my part of these plans would fall apart. I would not make it to Death Valley. But before we get into that, an explanation of how in recent years I've begun each new video series. That is, at the beginning, as I'm reciting the first voiceover of the series, you may notice there are scenes that are not part of the actual adventure. Rather, they are shots I took during the drive out, or that others on the trip may have taken. While I could reach Death Valley more quickly by driving mostly interstates there, I find it a lot more fun to take the occasional 2-lane road, or maybe a dirt road, even if they are only just a short jaunt off the interstate to have lunch or a short rest stop. And sometimes I luck into something more interesting, something worth noting for later return. Normally I use only 7 or 8 of such clips in my video. Then the actual trip video begins. And for this trip I plan to visit my youngest daughter in Albuquerque, my oldest daughter near Tucson, and my mom and dad near San Diego, then to drive mostly 2-lane roads to Death Valley, including spending the night near Joshua Tree National Park. I've therefore had lots of opportunity to expand my overlanding adventure from just Death Valley to something longer, albeit a bit transitory. What you'll see during this video is much of that material I shot that was planned solely for those first few seconds. But you'll see more than just a quick clip or 2. And I'll tell you where these places are because perhaps you may want to visit some of them. After all, some are literally seconds off the interstate. You just have to take that off-ramp. The first video segment is at Sonoran Desert National Monument. I must have passed this exit 100 times over the past 40 years of driving out to San Diego to visit with my folks. And it wasn't until one time when I really needed to pee and I was seeking a place to do so that I stumbled on this beautiful piece of desert. There are no brown road signs announcing the presence of the monument. But take the off-ramp and there's a BLM kiosk full of information within a few yards. This is a small section of a much larger monument that is separated from it by the interstate. Camping is allowed here, and it's free. It's a great place to stop for lunch, or if you just need to answer nature's call. The next stretch of road is actually interstate. It is between Ocotillo, located in the Imperial Valley, up through the Jacumba Mountains. Imperial Valley is a desert that was named, quote, valley, to allow selling property to unwary buyers. The boulders, rugged mountains, and deep canyons along this stretch of interstate are spectacular. And there's a dirt road to take one off the highway that you may have seen at the beginning of previous videos. But alas, I did not drive out at this time, so I'm limited to sharing the view from I-8. Next up is immediately at the top of that magnificent ascent to the Jacumba Mountains. My folks live in Chula Vista, south of San Diego and just a few miles from Tijuana. In fact, stepping out their front door, you can see the bright lights of Mexico on the hillside to the south. If I ask Google for directions from where I have ascended out of the desert below, it will guide me along I-8 through jam-packed, multi-lane highway and interchanges filled with stop-and-go traffic. Or I can take 80 miles along the border of winding 2-lane highway through sparsely populated countryside, then just a few miles of 6-lane city streets. Yes, city streets in SoCal sometimes have 6 traffic lanes. The only thing wrong with driving this road is I wish I was driving my Trans Am and not my Wrangler. This is a driver's road, so I follow the occasional signs and pull off where I can and stay out of the way of those who have vehicles suited for more spirited passage. And I'm always aware that bicyclists also favor this route. Personally, I think they must have a death wish to be out here with traffic that ignores the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit, but those bicyclists are here. By the way, if you've watched my Campo Road video, then this route is the same, just the opposite direction this time. So remember that I-8 route from the mountains to my folks' home? Well, as busy as it is, it can provide a route to other parts of the desert that are along other scenic byways. Today I'm departing San Diego, planning to make it to at least Joshua Tree National Park. I may camp within the park, or if time permits, I may head out of it via a route I've wanted to drive, Old Dale Road. I figure I can find camping somewhere along it, then tomorrow head up to Shoshone, where we were supposed to meet up for our Death Valley adventure. So first up is to depart I-8 near the town of Alpine and head over the Cuyamaca Mountains and through the mountain town of Julian. After reaching Julian, I turned toward the desert, specifically Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. This is the second largest state park in the country. With over 500 miles of dirt road, there is ample territory for exploration and overlanding. You may have seen it featured in some of my videos previously. Today I will just drive through, headed along two-lane pavement to a slight detour on my way to JT to view the largest lake in the state of California, the Salton Sea. When I was a kid, we used to visit this lake to play in the water and patronize the shorelining businesses. And that included the most delicious date malts one can imagine. Today, the lake is a disaster, mostly due to poisoning from agricultural runoff. With beautifully blue water and the backdrop of the Chocolate Mountains, it's still a pretty sight. Just don't go for a swim. After departing the Salton Sea, I headed to Mecca, my last opportunity to gas up before entering Joshua Tree National Park. But before crossing Interstate 10 and driving up into the park, I had another special treat, a drive through Box Canyon. This BLM public land, literally just minutes off I-10, offers sandy washes near the canyon walls that lead to plentiful camping within the canyon and hiking opportunities into adjacent wilderness areas. A paved road connects Mecca to I-10 through the middle of the canyon. The fantastic scenery is the result of the extreme erosion and frequent seismic activity in the area. Departing Box Canyon and crossing under I-10, I immediately entered Joshua Tree National Park. The visitor center is on this end of the park, so I first stopped there. They advised me that the park campgrounds were likely full. Odd since it was midweek, but that was fine with me since I had plenty of time to head out on Old Dale Road. Little did I know that Coachella Music and Arts Festival was going on this coming weekend, so folks were arriving early to secure their spot. The ranger asked if I had a suitable vehicle and tried to impress on me how difficult the road was. I explained I was experienced in off-road travel, and he asked if I owned a Wrangler that was visible through the building window. When I said yes, he pulled out a book and showed me a few pictures meant to impress the typical all-wheel drive vehicle owner that maybe they shouldn't attempt the route. I was not so impressed. So they wished me safe travels, and I was on my way. Since I considered this day one of my overlanding adventure, I shot a lot more video than for the previous segments I've shared. This is where my overlanding adventure would really begin, or so I thought. Well, I stopped at the visitor center. They said the park is pretty full in the campgrounds, which I guess is okay. I'm going to go ahead and go out Old Dale Road. A 4x4 road that takes me out to Highway 62. See if I can't find a campsite along there. It crosses into BLM land. Black Eagle Road on the right, Old Dale Road on the left. Roads not maintained, four-wheel drive vehicles only. feeling the sand pull the steering around, so went ahead and went to four-wheel drive. There to be a four-wheel drive before I need it. So I believe that is Mission Well that I'm seeing up there on the left. Washout. Yep, Joshua Tree National Park. It's a little rough. Oh, yeah, a little rough. So I started smelling a little bit of gas as I was traveling along. The road's real rough, and one of the jerry cans that I had up on top was leaking a little bit of gas. There's a little O-ring in these, and sometimes it falls out of place. I may not have noticed it when I filled it. So I'm just going to go ahead and, it probably fell in the bottom of the gas can. If I can get this thing open, I'm just going to go ahead and put this gas into my tank right now. There's plenty of room for 2.5 gallons. I filled up in the town of Mecca, which was the last town I drove through before I came into the park. This will solve that problem.
ways go to the same place. Because I got a high temp warning, I have a feeling all this washboard is tearing up this relay that I used for the engine fan off. So I've had this happen before. So fortunately it's not overflowing, but it is bubbling an awful lot. Let it cool down. This is the problem relay right here. I've got a spare if I need to put it in. Usually tapping on it is enough to bring it around. So right as I broke down, I passed a couple of guys who were camped here, and I walked back and talked to them a little bit, trying to get some information. They said they'd like to help me, so I'm gonna go ahead and drive Jeep back over there. It's actually cooled back down now. It's not heating up right now. I don't know if the engine fan has started running or not.
You got about 8 miles to get out to the road.
That's what I wanted to ask, yeah.
8 miles to the road, and then it's another, geez, what is it, about 15 miles to get into 29? 8 to get out the highway.
Okay.
And another 15.
Okay, I was figuring about 8. I checked a couple miles ago, it looked like it was about 10.
Which way were you going up into the canyon? It's quicker if you go straight.
I was just going to follow Old Dale Road.
That'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a little jog there. You don't want to go up this. You don't want to go. There's about a 2-mile detour.
Oh, you know, I saw that on one of the maps. Yeah, it looked like a. Normally I probably would, but not.
Yeah, I mean, it's the
with
fun way to go if you're going to do the off-road.
The engine has cooled down. We never got the fan to run. So just gonna go until it starts to get hot, and I'll pull over and let it cool down. They said the highway's 8 miles, the roads. Dan and Phil, who are helping me there, great amount of help. The highway's 8 miles from here, and it's just a road like this, and along with some sandy wash. And I want to keep my speed up. Since the fan doesn't seem to be working, at least some air blowing over the radiator. Yeah, the cooling temperature's starting to go up again. So I'm going to pull over, let it cool down. This may be where I spend the night, I don't know. Every now and then, that's not overheating. Ah, jeez. And here I am at the highway. All right, that was quick. 8 miles. Okay, now the temperature's really going up. All right, now we get out here on the highway. See if I can make it at 29 Palms. got here on the highway and it was in the high 230s. Once I got up to speed, the temperature started dropping. So that tells me that the actual coolant, that part of it, the radiator and everything, is doing its job if you can get air flowing through it. The problem is that I'm not getting any air flowing through it because the fan's not turning.
I limped into 29 Palms, the highway speed keeping the engine coolant temperature from rising too much. However, in driving through town, stopping for the occasional red light, I again had problems. I had to stop and let the engine cool down once, but finally made it to a hotel with a vacancy sign lit and checked in late that day. That's when I learned about Coachella and why many lodging places were already fully booked, especially over the weekend in a couple days. I texted the Death Valley crew to let them know there was a good chance I would miss the meetup the next day, which would be Thursday. If I could reach the Mengel Pass junction with West Side Road by Friday at 10:30 a.m., I could join the crew there. I also shared on a private Facebook group of overlanding friends from around the country my predicament. I was tired and it was getting late. I decided there wasn't much I could do this evening, so resigned myself to chase down a solution first thing in the morning.